Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play team. This actual play uses the RuneQuest rules by Chaosium Incorporated. This actual play is performed by adults and in an adult setting. Strong language, mature scenes, and rune magics are on the way. As this is our Glorantha, we will remind listeners that it may vary from the one you already know and love. And now, on to the show. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Old Ways Podcast. I am your storyteller, Michael Diamond. My pronouns are he, him, and we are back with another episode in our 6 seasons in Sartar campaign, our RuneQuest campaign on the Old Ways Podcast. First, we'd like to thank you for listening, and also those of you who are supporting us via Patreon, we'd like to give you a special thank you and hello. And you can also check us out over on Patreon at patreon.com/theoldwayspodcast. Jump over to YouTube, subscribe there, and see all of the weird and wacky fun we are up to. And so now I'm going to begin with introductions to my right.
Hail and well met, all. I am Heather, Valley Girl Heather, pronouns she, her, and I am playing Lysana of Cliffshield, apprentice healer and midwife of the Haraborn, follower of the blessed Earth Mother Nalda. All honor and praise to the blood that binds us all and the earth that keeps us. And she has just experienced something very deeply spiritual, very intense.
Yeah, absolutely. The harvest ritual for the first time. An interesting way to get your rune points back, and also another way to show the turning of the year. To Lysana's right.
This is Morgan, and I play Alara of Hillbase Stead. Our pronouns are she, her, and I worship the great Earth Shaker, Marangor.
I'm ready for you to shake some earth. At the end of the table.
This is Jake. I'm playing Vargast, son of Gordanger. And it was quite the night.
Both, yeah. Yeah, a day without any mead or beer, fasting and looking after children. And then at night, you were effectively told you were a bad boy. And you prayed for forgiveness, which is sort of a little strange. But that's what the earth requires, and so she shall have what she needs. Last but most certainly not least.
Hi, this is James. I will be playing Finn. I the follower of Ermal, who, whilst everyone else, all of the other men were asking for forgiveness, he very much felt as though he didn't really need to be forgiven as much as just not paid attention to.
Yeah, that's not the way forgiveness works. But that's okay. You'll learn it at some point. All right. So as we part the mist and the clouds and stare into our Haraborn of the Vale, we need to update them on something sort of important. At some point over the last day, the dear folk left. They gathered what supplies they could from the inner ring and from some of the other supporting steads and left out into the mountains, disappeared with the morning fog. It is just the morning after the men's ritual of the harvest. It is in that middle morning that a horn blare goes up throughout the vale. You hear a chain of these deep, bellowing horns, one after another, all the way up to the chieftain's hall. You see a young Haraborn male sprinting through the ring. Not the same one from Bora, a different boy this time. You can see him, Vargast. He enters with a ragged plea. The Lunars are here.
I start running towards the home, the house, the longhouse.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you start running. This horn, by the way, is something that all of the Vale will hear. It is impossible to miss.
Finn grabs his things and is already in motion, trying to stay out of the way.
A line of men begins to march up from the trail of the Vale's entrance towards the village and the hall, which is where the ring is.
Up, dressed. I'm sure my mother's already ahead of me, hearing the horns.
She
We're
is.
probably gathering supplies.
Your mother is gathering children and finding spaces for them and making sure that they're protected. And the men of your longhouse who have just come back, not but hours ago from their harvest ritual, have not slept. They have been awake for days now, and they are haggard and tired. And some are showing signs of that lack of energy. And while it doesn't put Finn or Vargast in any immediate penalties, I'll just remind both of their players that they should play them as they are haggard and without sleep. Yeah, both of you have been raided in a LARP, I'm sure, in the middle of the night. You know the feeling.
Yeah, yeah.
A line of men march up from the trail of that Vale entrance. A dozen of them or more are Lunar Hypastus, men with scarlet cloaks, bright silver shields. They follow a woman dressed like a simple soldier in a leather hauberk with bronze vambraces and greaves. Traveling alongside her is a Sartarite, an Eldonori by his clan markings. You see 5 servants that make up the rear. Any of you viewing this, which is technically all of you over a period of time, can make a customs Hortling or a homeland lore roll to identify them.
I'll roll for customs Hortling.
Yep.
And I get a 75 out of 30.
Okay.
I will try the same.
I got a 38 under 40 for Homeland lore.
Okay.
69
Nice.
over 30.
10 under 40 for Homeland lore.
Probably not low enough for a special, but those of you who pass notice that they are all Sambari from the Firebull clan. You would also know that about 4 years ago, the Firebull rose against the Lunar Empire and were crushed. All their men, women, and children were sold into slavery. These Lunars are marching with Sartarite slaves behind them.
I will continue to help my mother hide the children,
Mm-hmm.
take them to places of protection. If I have any food, packages of food, any food or anything on me or nearby that I can hand out to the men as they are headed out of the longhouse, I will do so, kind of bouncing between the two. And
Most of the men that are leaving the longhouse are doing so in more to stand in front of their longhouses as a show of force, although no one so far is making any violent or aggressive actions. They continue until they get to the village. And that's when you see them, Vargast.
My father out there?
He is. He's waiting. You also see that your uncle is somewhat nearby. Several of the other ring are there as well.
I want to go stand behind my father.
Okay. You see this lead woman move her horse closer to your father, clearly within talking distance, but not shouting distance. She doesn't salute or bow to your father. She more in effect puts her right hand on her heart just for a moment. And she says, "Voice of the Haraborn, I salute you. I am Ylvana Sendris of Dunstop. On behalf of the Governor General and His Majesty Tamertane of Boldholm, I am honored to be received in the whole of your people. This," she turns, "is Andrin, son of Cole Clearwine, a representative of the Colomar King Kanghar, son of Cragradius." That's the only person she directly introduces. "May we speak? You imagine, Vargast, that your father's molars could chew through the mountain if necessary." He very patiently nods, and Ylvana dismounts and hands the reins of her horse over to another soldier. And then her and Andrin walk forward. The small processional goes inside, including your father and your uncle and some of the other men of the inner ring. Do you go inside?
Yeah, I go inside.
Okay. Her voice is oddly, something strange about the tone of her voice when she speaks. You want to hate her. That much is easy. But she has an unerringly melodic voice. We have come on a troubling matter. It has come to the attention of the Provincial Office of Tribute and Taxation that there is a discrepancy, and it has been noted. According to the last imperial census of the Haraborn, the clan consists of 300 members with around 180 free adults. That would require, under the Lunar Peace Agreement of 1613, a tribute of 90 cattle each year from the Haraborn. So let me say that I would offer you my praise and the ring for paying the tribute the last 6 years in what we Lunars consider a timely fashion. However, the Lunar Census Office has been informed by reliable sources that the census is, in fact, off by a third, and that you Haraborn number 450 rather than 300, and that the tribute was off by at least 35 cattle per year. At least 210 cattle are therefore owed in back taxes, she says with a long smile. But the provincial government is not without mercy, and looks with fondness upon the client peoples of Sartar. You watch your uncle nearly spit when she says client. Because of this, the office is willing to settle for 100 cattle and consider the matter dismissed. However, as a sign of your loyalty to Boldholm and friendship to the provincial government, I would like your assistance in a troubling matter. There are, as I'm certain you are aware, lunar scouts in the area, and we are searching for a band of rebels and terrorists. The Third Wind. I was informed that they recently passed through the Vale, and I would like any information you have on these terrorists and cooperation in locating them.
Am I in the room, by the way?
Are you in the room? What are the chances that you would have snuck up from your stead to view this?
Quite good.
I think they're pretty high. What's your illusion rune at?
80.
Yeah, why don't you roll me your illusion rune?
I would love to. 30 under 80.
So unbeknownst to, well, everyone, you manage to pick your way along the steads through the trees, up and into the longhouse, just to see, because, well, frankly, you've never really even seen a lunar up close. And that's something's got to happen. And so, yeah, you're there, tucked away in a cupboard maybe, or a shadow, or perhaps behind a hanging fir.
I'd like to get as close as possible to the group without revealing the fact that I'm there.
You're about as close as you can get. There are 10 to 12 sets of eyeballs in this room. And everybody here doesn't like each other.
Right.
So yeah, you're there and you're hearing this.
Wonderful.
Vargast, your father, speaks up and says, so what would you have me do? Pay the full taxation. 210 cattle would be difficult for us to continue to pay further seasons of taxation. It is not our fault you're a census taker that can't count. I cannot risk my people in this way. Yolvan says, then cooperate. 100 cattle is a painful price for you to pay. I understand that, but as you well know, these mercenaries, these rebels and terrorists, they do no one good in the end. We have already sued for peace. The war is over. Best to see the light. Tell us where they are. Or if any of you. She begins to sort of turns to the crowd. If any of you have credible evidence of where they are, speak up. Help your provincial governor and ensure peace in the Vale. So let me ask you something, Jake. Vargast probably has a pretty good read on his father.
Mm-hmm.
There are probably 3 distinct paths here. Pay the full balance and likely risk being overthrown by the other Carls for weakening the clan to the point where they could be dead and destitute. Cooperate with them and pay 100 cattle. And so this isn't great, but it might not be as bad as, say, double the amount. Certainly would, that option could also lead to Carl's demanding new elections. And then there's also the third option, which is the ugly option. And that's refuse to pay and risk violence right here, right now, with Lunars in the room. Of the 3 options, what do you think your father would likely do?
Well, I don't believe there's any chance he's going to go for option 1.
I tend to agree. I don't think he's going to risk his leadership position based off of this.
Looking out for his people, option 2 would probably be the wiser choice. However, I don't see him giving in. So I'm going to lean towards option 3.
Okay. So in this way, as the chieftain's son, you have sort of a unique role to play. In that your impression of him is going to weigh heavily on the decision that he makes. Yolanva says, I await your decision, chieftain. I will be outside. And she turns along with her guard, who are being very careful, and they step outside. Once the door closes, Savan breathes again. This huge intake of breath. I cannot stand the way they even smell. We have little choice, your father says. The harvest has been weak. We all know this. Only the cattle which are not breeding. Morgana says that they are not as many babies as there need to be. I feel we must push back. Hard. James, a tankard of ale gets dumped on your head.
Finn steps out from his hiding place.
You hear a sort of quick laugh, one you have heard before from Caledon Blue Eye. Oh, Finn, there you are. I almost thought you were missing in that cupboard.
I would never be missing.
You see Gordangar sort of look at you for a minute and look towards Caledon, and he doesn't roll his eyes, but he just shrugs.
And for what it's worth, I think there is far too little blood on these floors.
Who knew the Amali had a taste for war?
Maybe not war, but definite slaughter.
Savan says, reject them outright.
We owe them nothing more, and we're willing to fight if we have to.
Let me conjure the likeness of a snake amongst their horses. Jeez.
Sending them home is one thing. Killing them is another. If we kill them, they might send a regiment or a whole group. That is not something the Vale is ready to protect against just yet. But this is our home and our land. Your father reaches over and puts his hand on you, Vargast, and says, you go tell that bitch to go home.
My pleasure, Father.
I will not honor her with any more words today.
So I will go outside.
You go outside. As you see that there are this array of lunar soldiers, this woman in very proud armor, and her long sweeping red cape waits on her horse. She sort of hums at you.
My father has no more words to waste on you. Take your toy soldiers and your threats and leave. Don't ever come back.
Don't ever come back. do not see them. She points to the people strung together in a line. Do not see your future. We needn't be enemies.
No, all you have to do is go.
Well, I will pray for you tonight. To the 7 mothers I will pray that illumination finds you. And if not, I will find you myself.
The 7 mothers hold no sway here. This land belongs to Orlanth.
For now. She urges her horse, and the Lunars turn around, and they head out from the village. They seem to do so at a trot, which forces the Sartarite people they have enslaved to have to hustle.
Is there any chance while they have their eyes on Vargast that he could slip a knife or a lockpick kind of a thing to one of the people in the line?
They're somewhat surrounded by lunar soldiers on horseback.
Oh, I suppose.
It would be exceedingly dangerous for you to try to get near them.
Okay.
Like, you're smooth and all, but
Not that smooth.
not that smooth yet. After they leave, Celadon Blue Eye comes around to you, Finn.
Finn's still staring at where they were, like the area on the horizon they walked off towards with a frown.
I think we're going to need your help.
Mm.
This sort of bluster back and forth happens with people. Your friends, Alara, Asana, the ladies of the Vale. He makes a sort of rude facial gesture.
Finn smirks.
Gather them up, bring them up here. We're going to go on a hunt. Well, you are, not me. Tell them to get ready and bring them up here.
Wonderful. I'll be right back. And as quick as the finch that he's partly named for, away he goes, gathers his friends with a look of glee on his face, mischievous glee.
Who are you gathering first?
Well, the first person he always gathers, Alara.
Certainly. She sets you on fire.
A little bit.
So you go and you collect Alara. So what are you telling her?
Knock on the windowsill of her room. Hey, get your stuff.
Poke my head out the window. Why didn't you just come to the door?
Twinkle in his eye. Come on, we're going hunting. It's the first time Finn has ever asked you to go hunting.
Okay, I grab my bow and arrow and I jump out the window.
Yeah, and get Lizana. I have to go get Vargast.
It's a long run to that longhouse.
With those legs? Come on.
Yes, I'll go get her.
Okay. So, Alara, how are you collecting Lysana? You got to go south, like to Cliff Shield.
Yeah, I am. Are there any extra horses laying around?
Yeah, I'll say that there's a horse. Sure. You know how to ride a horse? What's your ride skill?
It's a 10.
You're going to wear your big red boots too?
No, this character doesn't. Actually, she probably does. But my ride skill is 10. So I guess I'm walking. I'm walking here.
No, you can easily grab a horse.
All right.
You can easily grab a horse.
Yeah, I grab one of my family's horses, and I'm assuming they ride bareback, so jump on. I mount up from a cut down tree, from a tree trunk. Yeah, that's the word.
So for you, Lysana, something strange appears on the horizon, and that is Alara on a horse.
Okay, something's gone wrong. Mother, I think I may have to go.
Go where?
I will know in a moment.
Don't gather your things.
I have a bad feeling about this. And I gather my things. If Alara's riding a horse towards my home, towards my longhouse, yeah, something's happening.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you get there.
Yeah, is Lysana waiting outside?
Yep, and I have all my gear with me. So, yeah, that can't be good. No offense, Alara, but, yeah, where are we going?
I don't know. Finn just said we're going hunting. So I reach out my arm and jump on.
I jump on the back of the horse behind her.
Okay, so the two of you make your way. The two of you make your way north. You catch up with Finn, who hasn't had a chance to get to the village yet because, of course, the horse is faster. So Alara and Lysana gallop past and probably slow a little bit as you approach.
Get Vargast, and I will meet you at the village.
He can't fit on the back of this horse.
I mean, just tell him to meet us there.
All right.
The three of you come together, and it doesn't take you long, Vargas, to hear that your social pals are hanging out in the village. Your father asks you to tend to whatever it is that they need, and he's going to go talk with Savan and figure out what the Vale needs to do next.
Very good.
You step out of the longhouse, and you are not confronted is the wrong word, but Caledon Blue Eyes stands like next to you within 2 steps of you being out of the house. Where are you going, big man?
Got somebody to talk to.
Indeed you do. I'm right here.
Finn comes puffing up.
Yeah, sure. Finn, come along.
You drink out of his wineskin. It tastes like gasoline.
Smooth.
Pretty strong stuff.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. Promise.
Do you tan hides with that?
Sometimes, yes. Other times I start fires with it.
I believe it.
You walk out with Finn, and you see Lysana and Alara getting off the horse. Perfect timing, ladies. You're all here now. We can get on with the show. So, Caledon Blue Eyes is pretty well known to be, we'll just say, the village trickster. Fool, strange wise man sometimes. He knows things. Nobody knows how he knows these things. But the one thing you'd know is that he is bonded to Gordangar. And so the way that kind of works is a trickster needs eventually in life to be bonded to someone because that person has to take the blame for what they do. Because if they're not bonded, then generally the Uramali don't last very long because they get into too much trouble. You would probably think of Gordangar sort of like Caledon's grounding rod. Sort of takes all the lightning hits for him, and in turn offers his unique wisdom and skills to the chieftain. But it's pretty well known that he's a bit of a wild man. I understand there was a slight moon problem today, right? Is that true?
You hear correctly.
Well, not out of this ear. He sort of scratches the ear and sticks his finger in and comes out with this really weird goop that he has to forcefully eject from his finger. It stinks. You can smell it. So I'm going to recommend that you 4 go on a little trip. Maybe give a little warning, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that was my thoughts exactly.
It's a good thought. You're a bright kid. I've got something for you. He produces a piece of parchment. He gives it to Finn. It's a rough map I came up with when I was dreaming once.
That's what happens when you drink that stuff.
It's a map to the well. You know where our friends are hanging out at?
Yeah.
You're going to go there and you're going to warn them.
You have an idea how far that is?
Oh, it's more than 10 steps, less than 1,000. It's something.
Grand. Okay.
But I want to warn you, of course, Lunars are in the area. If for whatever reason the 4 of you are captured, say nothing. Tell them nothing.
Nothing.
Provided you're not aggressive, they won't kill you on sight. The worst that would happen is you'd be ransomed, which is a completely acceptable way to exchange finances.
Sure.
Yeah. So we should get some supplies and get ready to go. Grab anything you need.
Indeed, you should. I know you're capable. You dealt with Drugala. Nasty business that was. I don't know that the trade merchant has really recovered from the loss of his wife. But he sort of sticks his nose up almost in this weird, noble gesture. And he looks at you, Vargas, and says, she wasn't one of us.
Right.
Well, I wish you all the best of luck. In only the way I can tell you that. Here, take this beetle. Hands you a beetle. Alara.
I take the beetle.
It's big. It's like the size of your palm.
Is it alive?
Yes.
Oh. What am I doing with this?
It extends its wings and begins flapping them. No. Don't let it fly out. Hold on to it.
Put my other hand over the top of it.
You feel the wings like beat at the bottom of your palm. Just hang on to it. You'll know what to do when the time's right. He walks away.
Okay. Just holding this beetle? I don't have anything to put it in yet.
Finn goes and grabs one of the malformed jars that I'm sure litter the backyard area of his house that didn't fire right or don't seal properly. Here.
I thankfully put it in there.
Now you can eat it later.
That sounds so tasty. I take the jar and I hold it against me.
The beetle makes a humming sound.
Well, now that we've got that taken care of, supplies. We need some food for a few days, traveling supplies, and whatever else you want to bring.
Well, seeing Alara coming over the hill on a horse, I figured it was we needed to be prepared. So, and she kind of opens her pack, and you see small food bundles that were probably left over from when the group moved through. You'll see her healing kit. A full water skin is off to her side. Unless you all need more. And besides, if it takes us a couple of days to get there and we're going to the well, if we are stopped, we could say we are gathering water for some ritual. I'll have it all figured out. I think some idea.
He gently pats her on the shoulder. Why don't you let me do the lying?
Oh, no, that's perfectly fine. Just putting out the idea.
Thank
I
you.
am far. As she kind of rubs her chin where there is the truth rune, very deliberately and rather bold, as she kind of almost strokes the chin along the Y lines. Yes, I think that would probably be better, but just offering up an idea, I thank you for, yeah.
It's a fantastic idea.
So I see you come well stocked.
Well, I do try my best to be prepared for all occasions. You know, you never know what may arise when circumstances allow.
Yeah, well, anybody else need anything? I need to go get my weapons and traveling supplies.
Oh, no. I'm good. Well, I'm very good.
We'll say that the group gathers their supplies, weapons, etc. You'll set out that day. Just looking at the map, Vargast, you're fairly certain it's going to take a little over a day to reach the well. Climbing the slopes of Cragradius is challenging under any circumstances. This is something Finn and Alara know really well. As you move, it's going to take you up alongside a small rushing stream that feeds into Deer Run in the Vale. It's a narrow gorge between Glass Cave and High Water, so some of the most northerly steads. As you move through this season and the seasonal nature of the leaves here, it's a beautiful series of waterfalls that you need to traverse. You have to scramble over carpets of these slippery pine needles. You travel across loose shelves of shale rock, up wet and mossy banks of these streams as well. Definitely not a place where a horse would find it easy. And so you go on foot. And so what I would like from my group of Haraborn here are a climb roll. I'd like to have that in introduction order if I could.
Climb. That is a 24. Looks like under 40.
Okay. So given all of the work that you've done getting prepared for your adult life, this is, I think, fun is the wrong word. It's a little bit of a challenge. It's interesting to be out from the Longhouse now on some sort of secret mission, and you feel a real sense of getting an opportunity to sort of fight for the earth in this regard, because you've spent a lot of your life in a passive mode. That the words of your uncle are ringing in your ears about you being passive, and that how that's not you. And now you feel like you're actively doing something, and so it's very much invigorating.
I got a 2 out of 50.
Okay, that is going to definitely be 2 out of 50 is a critical. And so if you don't mind, I will just put a pin in that critical for the moment. Okay? We'll say that you are traversing this waterfall area exceedingly well, and your nimble form is making its way up the rock wall fairly simply. Vargast?
I got a 39 under 45.
Okay. Yeah, for you it's a little bit different. So being somebody who's very tall, climbing the rocks isn't necessarily as simple because this brittle shale that's here, it cracks a lot on you. You have to constantly find your footing in different spaces. But you do manage to get up. And then Finn.
I got a 7 under 45.
So 7 under 45 is a special success. You also find it very easy to get up this first waterfall. And after that, you go on to sort of the next series of riverbank changes and stream changes. And you realize very quickly that you're now going to be tasked with leaping over specific spots or having to get yourself all wet in one of these really cold streams. And so I'll just ask Finn to make me a jump roll, and then we'll work our way back through our introduction order.
He got a 50 under 53.
Okay. You leap from the rock and misjudge entirely the length of the jump. And you land with a splash in this water. Vargast, how's your jump?
It's not good. It's 91 over 40.
Okay. So we'll put a pin in that and come back to it. Alara?
I got an 82 out of 36.
All right, very good. And Lysana?
That's an 84 over 39.
The Earth Mother, she does weigh you down.
Does not like me being in the air.
No.
Fly, trying to imitate to have a little Orlan theme.
Right. She decides in her infinite wisdom to collect you and your compatriots, Alara and Vargast, and dunk you all in a very deep portion of this pool. So the water is beyond cold. It is mountain water in a stream that has these tiny little dips in it that probably go down 2 or 3 feet. And so essentially anybody who fails the roll is up to basically their collarbone, except of course Vargas, which is basically like the middle of your stomach.
Is there a shore of some type?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's not far to get to. It's really, a couple of feet. You just have to swim to a different space. And then anybody who's standing and who's made their jump is, sort of standing on the other side waiting.
So we wade towards the other side because I don't think any of us actually made it.
Yeah, I don't think there was any successes, right?
Yeah, none of us.
I did 50 under 53.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Finn did make it.
Yes.
So you see them collectively, see them trying to get out of the stream here, Finn. And you find it somewhat humorous that you're the dry one.
It's because I spend so much time in the river, or around the river. He offers a hand to Alara and then helps the other two out of the river casually.
Okay.
As an afterthought.
So those of you who are in the water are very quickly beginning to get cold. It is getting on late now into the afternoon, and it might be time to have a fire, for lack of a better reasoning.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. If we just keep walking, we're going to freeze in these clothes.
That is true.
Find a little bit of hill or something with a little bit of shelter and dig down so that the fire is not readily viewable. I think my uncle taught me that.
And, truth be told, I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. So I think I'm ready for tuckering in.
We gotta get out of these clothes and get warmed up.
Finn sets about making a fire because he's the only one that's dry.
Yeah. I don't think there's any role necessary for the fire, to be honest. It's something that all of you would know how to do. At this point, you live in an era where everybody has to know how to make and stoke a fire. I think what I would like to know, Finn, if you would, or really anybody, but probably the other three of you are way more focused on being shivering cold than to think about this. Are you taking any steps in your travels today or when you set this camp to perhaps be a little unobtrusive?
I would like to say that Finn is, but Finn probably doesn't think like that. He's not raised as a warrior, per se. So he's really more just worrying about people not dying of the cough and sniffles that happen right after you fall in a river.
Certainly. Okay, so I'm happy to offer this to Vargast or Alara, who are probably more that type of thought train.
Yeah, I would try to at least try to find a place more unobtrusive. The fire won't show as much or, draw attention.
Okay. So functionally, if you're trying to hide your presence, this is technically a track roll. And remember that you have the ability to use runic inspiration for this as well.
I'll use my air rune to inspire me to the best way of hiding the smoke and light from our fire.
Okay, I think that's valid. So go ahead and roll your air rune.
55 under 90.
Okay, so that's 20% to your track roll.
Which is good. That is 28 under 30.
Okay. You work to hide and work to really shape the fire and the smoke that comes from it up a specific tree, so that way it is camouflaged within the evergreen pines. Finn, you start and shape the fire, which is something that, Alara, you're very quickly drawn to.
Yep.
And I suppose then, how are we spending the evening in attempts to get warm?
Well, we probably have blankets with us if we have traveling packs. So I'll strip down, tell everybody else strip down and get under the blankets. And theoretically, we should actually be under the same blanket. But
that's a choice I'll leave to the player.
Works for me. He's correct. I strip down and I kind of lay out my clothes on a nearby stump that's near the fire to warm, and wrap myself in a blanket. We'll get right next to Vargast.
He likely generates quite a bit of body heat.
Finn is trying to dry out their clothes as the three of them are currently probably curled into small fetal ball right now, shivering cold. So he tries to dry their clothes out near the fire, takes his own extra blanket and wraps it around Alara and stretches out next to the fire next to her. I mean, he's still dry, so.
Alara hasn't stripped down yet, so no. I just stand up and I strip all the way down and I throw a blanket around me and take the extra one that Finn gives me and get as close to the fire as I can, almost even touching it.
Yeah, so what and this is sort of a point of distinction here, when Alara gets close to the fire after having stripped down, it is clear that like the rune lines that are on her calves and legs are amazingly intricate. And when she gets close to the fire, they glow. Like they hold the firelight in them. And you're probably one of the first people to actually warm up because the fire is like drawn to you. That said, though, it takes a few hours for clothes to dry. It takes a lot less for our Haraborn to get warm with all that body heat. And they have a chance to relax that evening in a secluded place under the cover of blankets with the warmth of the veil coming from one another. And I think that's a perfect note to end on. And so thank you for joining us on this episode of 6 Seasons in Sartar. We will leave the rest to your imagination. Thank you and good night.